Hi, I'm Alistair Cooper and welcome to Strategy 7 in the PlanningGame.com 7 free strategy series. Let's see if we can break down some of the myths about self-build. So why self-build? Well, there's a number of reasons. The main one is that the finance is very easy nowadays. There's many specialist products out there focused specifically on self-build, and there's even products that on a non-status basis, i.e. without having to prove your income, will fund not only 95% of the cost of buying the plot, but also 95% of the build costs. And more importantly, they'll provide this finance in advance of each stage and not in arrears, which, as you learn more about self-build, you'll find helps your cash flow enormously. So in order to source that kind of finance, you'll need to be looking for plots that already have permission, because I don't know of any bank that will lend you 95% to buy a piece of land that doesn't have permission for anything on it. And sorry to sound flippant, but you'll need to pay a premium, of course, to get plots already with permission. But of course, with all the strategies you've learned from the Planning Game series and from perhaps attending one of our workshops, you'll know that just because a plot has permission for one dwelling doesn't mean you can't get more out of it and squeeze more juice out of the orange, so to speak. The other advantage of self-build is it has a quick time scale, especially if you use a package company to build a timber frame and construct the house. Sometimes they can construct the house to watertight stage in as little as 4 or 5 days. It literally can be that quick. Also, you have a predictable outcome in as much as the plans, if there's full plan permission on the plot, plans have probably already been drawn up. You can take those plans to a package company, get a quote to build the house, know exactly where you are on a fixed price basis. And it's also possible to be pretty hands off. I mean, you don't necessarily need to be down on site every day with a shovel helping to mix the concrete, and so you don't necessarily have to stick to your local area on this type of project either. If you can see a juicy opportunity a long way away ago, it doesn't mean you necessarily have to be on site every day. Most package companies also provide an element of project management included within their cost. So let's have a look at an example. Well, this is a plot that's been developed by a good friend of mine, George, from Hemel Hempstead. And here he combined the strategy of brownfield development, i.e. building in rear gardens, with a new build strategy. Here he was actually approached by an agent and offered the rear garden of one property, but George wasn't satisfied with that and knew there'd be more money to be made by doing two. And so he approached the neighbour to the side and managed to negotiate to purchase the rear garden of their property for the same price. So the first rear garden already had outline plan permission for a house, so George knew he'd be pretty confident in getting permission for both. But what he did in this circumstance was use what's called an option. And that is, he agreed to purchase the rear plots, but only upon the understanding that he gained permission to build a house on each of them. So let's have a look at what George managed to create. In fact, the picture on the left already shows the foundations in, and what George did was use one company, and this is quite common in self-build, to dig out the foundations and lay all the services such as the sewage, gas and electric, and lay a beam and block flooring. And then the package company come afterwards and construct the actual timber frame and make the house watertight. From that point on, George chooses to finish all the internals of the house himself, but as I say, there's other package companies that provide what's called a full turnkey service and actually produce the thing right up to final decoration. So let's have a look at the numbers. Well, the garden was on the open market, so George found it just by being in contact with a major local agent. He didn't particularly go scouring for it. He managed to purchase both garden plots for £70,000 each, so a total of £140,000. He was able to utilise a 95% mortgage, as I discussed earlier, and develop two houses. The total cost came to about £180,000. He was able to resell, well, the resale value of each house is around £220,000, so it leaves a profit of £120,000. Now, this seems fairly modest compared to some of the profits we've seen from the examples I've shared with you in earlier strategies. But let's face it, £120,000 is still not a bad profit, especially from a project that George didn't have to be involved in on a day-to-day basis, because much of the management was undertaken by the package house company. He had virtually no risk because he only paid for the land once he'd gained permission, so therefore it's not as if he was buying empty land and having to fund that in cash. So it was very easy to finance, it was very predictable. George managed to turn the whole project round from the initial dig of the foundations to completion of the house in about 3 months. And so if you could do this 4 times a year, 4 times 120,000, I'm sure would be very attractive to the vast majority of us. So what are some of the caveats we should be aware of when we're looking at self-build? Well, as with any development project, be really careful to check your numbers. That is, does it really stack? And make sure that you have a market for the product you're intending to produce. I mean, for example, if an area is predominantly 2 and 3 bedroom terraces, perhaps looking to build a 6-bedroom luxury detached might leave you with a property that would be on the market for some time, I hasten to add. So small is beautiful really in these circumstances, but again, don't take that strategy to its ultimate end. I mean, if an area is full of 3 to 4 bed plus detached family houses, don't necessarily look to develop small 1-bedroom flats, because the sort of transient young market may not be suitable for that area. So basically always follow the crowd rather than try and create the wave yourself, and try and develop properties that are sympathetic and in keeping with properties that are already in that local area. That will, although it may seem boring, that will make your sale much more predictable, and again try and help to eliminate the risk from the whole transaction. All the profit is in the buying, as they say, and that's more important with self-build than anything else. You will, because your sale price is so predictable and your costs of developing are so predictable, basically the only strategy you have to maximise and increase your profits is to get the purchase price down. Now, this is not necessarily always easy when the plot's already got planning permission, because the vendor has already got in mind maximising the sale of the price of the plot or the property with permission for another dwelling. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gone to the trouble of getting planning permission in the first place. But as I say, in order to get the easy self-build finance, you'll need the planning permission already in place. So this sometimes can be a challenge, but again, if you're willing to do the legwork, and let's face it, if you had to look at 100 projects and you only picked one, you'd be making £1,200 out of each project you looked at. So perhaps that'll help when you're still up at 2 in the morning searching for projects. There can be neighbour issues with backland development, but not necessarily are neighbour complaints always a barrier to gaining permission. Most applications for modest development, such as the one George carried out, are undertaken under what's called delegated powers. And that means that the officers of the council will make the decision. It won't necessarily go to committee. Now, although objections might come in from neighbours, those objections have to be on clear planning grounds. Now, the advantage for you is you've built up your skills and knowledge by listening to the 7 Free Strategies and coming along to one of our workshops, perhaps. And so you can present your argument in a much stronger form than can lay people, i.e. neighbours. So often they write in saying that the potential property might damage their amenity or affect the light to their garden, etc. But unless it's a clearly well-balanced argument on planning grounds, then their argument can be dismissed. So just because you get objections doesn't necessarily mean that your application will go to committee and be delayed. Tax is obviously a natural strategy you'll need to understand and plan for when it comes to self-build. CGT, capital gains tax, is obviously an issue, and you'll need to try and ensure that you can make the new property your principal private residence. And again, you'll learn more about that on one of our workshops. And also watch your cash flow. If you aren't successful in obtaining a 95% self-build mortgage, which will help to fund, as I say, everything up front, you have to watch and have a small fighting fund as such to manage the cash flow. And I'll just tell you a little bit about the one-day workshop that's coming up soon. It's a chance for you to spend a whole day with me, helping to build your understanding of the planning system, helping to build your skills in terms of where to spot opportunities, how to best present your case when you go to the council, how to source builders and source package companies, how to source finance, which is a very important one, and basically how to take a project from the very early stages of a good idea right through to fruition and help to maximise your profits on every project. So, as I said earlier, I'm looking to become a joint venture partner with many of you, because you've all got pairs of eyes the same as I've got, and you may well spot opportunities better than the ones that I've got on the go at the moment. And I want to leverage my time, and I want you to learn all you need to be able to succeed immediately. So my goal is for you to leave the workshop with a briefcase full of skills, knowledge, and most importantly the confidence that you can go out the very next day, spot opportunities and turn them into huge profit opportunities. So thanks for your time. I look forward to meeting you on one of my one-day workshops, and all in all, wish you all the best in winning the planning game.